How is everybody doing? We did it. We beat Jamaal Bowman. The voters in his district came out and said, we will not support you because you endorsed Joe Biden. That's why we're sending George Latimer to DC. I mean, I think the real reason that Bowman lost, we'll be honest, is gerrymandering. It is a very, 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 very boring reason, but that's the reason. Is the Democratic Party wanted to get rid of as many progressives as they could in the New York Democratic Party. People complained about how they didn't seem like they cared about Republicans because they didn't. The primary thing they were doing was trying to, and they did, they eliminated a number of progressives from the gerrymandering strat, while Republicans increased their House representation in New York. That's really what happened. I mean, Bowman won the Bronx by like 80-some%, you know, except that was only like 10% of the district. The rest of it was, you know, Yonkers and Westchester. You know, it was a pretty clear attempt to remove him. Somebody mentioned for Jamaal to stay in the race and put him in as a write-in. Is that feasible? I mean, you know, I think write-in campaigns are very unlikely to win in a general election. Do you think they will come after AOC? Nah, I think the strategy with AOC is to put all the most left-wing precincts they can in one, because they're gonna lose. They can't beat everybody, right? So you might as well have, you know, one. Yeah, you just put all the most left-wing precincts that you can and string them together like an octopus. Put them all in AOC's district and have her win by like 99%. Speaking of the gerrymandering, did you see Talia's post? I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I feel bad about it, you know, like but this is what happens. I mean, progressives lose. Nina Turner lost. That was years ago. It's not like the fight ends because one person loses. You know, it is what it is. I think it was a very dumb thing to do for within our lifetimes to protest Bowman during GOTV. I don't think it really mattered. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think that changed many votes. Bowman should try to spoil Latimer. I think if he might actually win. Like if he could run as a Working Families Party ticket, he should. You know, force AIPAC to spend money in that fucking district again. It's not like the Democratic Party cares about Bowman. Like there's something that happens to some progressives where they think like, oh, I can't piss off the Democrats, and guess what? They do. They still hate you. The protest against Bowman was inconsequential. Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. I mean, you know, over the course of the weekend, you know, especially late last week, you know, dealing with Romeo being sick, I was just, you know, I felt really just irritated, just unhappy in general from that negative vibes of before you know, we found treatment that really worked to make Romeo feel better. And it seems like, knock on wood, that he's making a epic comeback. The Romeo comeback is unbelievable. But, and knock on wood, let's not, you know, assume he's totally fine. But honestly, I think it's like he's on his way. He's like just kicking its ass again. It's like, how many cancers can one dog beat? But like, I think the main problem. Do you think he could win as a Working Families member? It seems unlikely to me. I think it's unlikely as well, but it's worth a shot. You're a sitting congressman, you know? Like, fuck the Democrats. But I think he might just be tired. He doesn't want to do it. And I mean, I think if he has some money left over, I think running it as a poll, getting a kind of sense of where you're at, if you do it, might be a good idea. But I think overall, like, my general feeling is, I've been doing this politics for 10 years, and a lot of the time, you win, and a lot of the time you lose. It is what it is. If losing is going to make you do a mental breakdown, then you're not cut out for politics. It is what it is. And it tells you that charisma and talent and intelligence are not the only thing that matter. Because people, quite frankly, are not that involved in politics. They're not really that involved. The masses don't have collective consciousness. They just don't. One thing I've been thinking a lot about today is the classic conservative PAC line against progressives during elections of this progressive doesn't play ball with Biden. It's obviously not true, but how long until progressive politicians wake up and realize that even if they get along, they will still be labeled as unreliable for the Democratic Party? At what point do they start calling out Joe Biden and others for being feckless? They can't stay the course. Well, I think that the main issue there is that voters are Democratic partisans. Meaning Democratic voters want you to be a Democrat partisan. So you should do it. And the other thing is, a lot of people's opinions is fully shaped by the media, especially Democrat partisans. In fact, Democrat partisans are probably the most vulnerable to media narrative. That's the trap. That's why America is fucked. The reason why America is fucked is all of the skepticism about corporate media is in the Republican Party. I saw a couple articles about the masses were complaining about this smear ad campaign against Jamaal, yet it's effective. Why are you surprised? The average person interfacing with politics doesn't know shit. And so if, like, every time you turn on a television or start your computer up or open your mailbox, there's 8 things about how Jamaal Bowman is bad, I'm sorry, but a lot of people are going to see that. And their minds are going to be altered. They're going to change their mind. Money matters, especially in congressional races. In fact, I think that's where money is the most effective because even incumbent Congress people at most have like 50% name recognition. Okay? Like, I think it would be fascinating to test in AOC's district what her name rec is. Like, if you were to just like, who is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? And you polled AOC's district and you didn't give them any hints. What percentage of people would give you the right answer? I bet you would be 55%. And AOC is probably like one of the most famous Congress people in the country. Maybe 60. And I would bet you she has better name recognition among conservatives than she does among Democrats.
This is democracy.
So that's the thing. So, Jamaal Bowman loses. It is exactly kind of what we expected. I didn't sugarcoat this. I didn't pretend he was gonna win. I've been very fucking frustrated by this. And let's let the libs get their happy faces in. Trying to keep the settler colony of the United States going is like trying to keep the settler colony of Israel. This ship is sinking. I mean, I think that's what we like to call left-wing cope. And if you need that, that's fine. if that makes you feel better, if it makes you feel motivated to keep fighting, if you need the idea that you're just about to win in order to fight, then please do continue to delude yourself that that's the case. Now, over here in the real pragmatic left, when I say pragmatic, I don't mean compromising with Democrats. I mean people who are paying attention to the real world that exists. That's not true. And it's not even close to true. And it's unfortunate, but it's a bald reality that the U.S. ain't going anywhere. And honestly, the United States isn't a settler colonial state anymore. It's a post-settler state. We genocided the people. They're gone. Okay? Palestine is currently being colonized. The indigenous population is still half of the population, if not more, for the entire area of mandatory Palestine. So it's a very different set of circumstances. Now, Israel could collapse if the United States was forced to withdraw their support. The United States ain't going anywhere, unfortunately, unless it does something stupid like try to fight China head to head. I got banned from I'm Really Important stream last night. Who gives a shit? What is that Lib even talking about these days? What's stopping Bowman from running again? No, he could run again. My boomer ex-cop aunt was trying to explain to me AOC is only her seat because Muslims vote for her because she's Muslim. Yeah, AOC is not in a Muslim district and she's not Muslim. What do I think about Boebert winning? She moved to a more Republican district and won. What's the... Would you say it's a small chance that Israel collapses? No, actually, I think I think Israel is the one that you need to keep an eye on. Israel is entering a stage. This is what happens with America, by the way. When America no longer has use for a proxy, it gets abandoned. Right? Like, everybody was like, oh man, the United States has spent how many billions of dollars and tens of thousands of American lives propping up South Vietnam? Oh, the Vietnam War will never end. There was a certain type of pessimism where it was like, oh, the capitalist superpower will never let Vietnam War end. And then it ended. And then all the people who were saying, like, if you use the analysis, the South Vietnam War, and then it ended. It's the same thing. The United States will abandon its proxies when they become annoying. Same thing with Afghanistan war, right? Like, a analysis of the war would say, like, oh, the United States has, like, basically infinite capacity to maintain this, until it doesn't. This is where some people who are a certain type of doomer Marxist get things wrong. So I would say that with Israel, the thing that's different about Israel and other proxies is that they are much more adept at manipulating American politics to keep themselves propped up. And they have built a system of extracting money from American Zionists, using American Zionists to spend in their own domestic political sphere, and then getting a lot of American money to pour into Israel, much of which can then be returned and spent back in America to create this, to perpetuate the cycle. Other proxies haven't done that. And to my eye, AIPAC is nowhere near being defeated or marginalized in our politics. Now, there was a number of people in Congress who were bucking AIPAC, but one of them's gone now. So more politicians are learning, well, you may not like Israel personally, but you don't want to get on the wrong side of them. And if you do fight AIPAC, don't expect progressives or socialists to come riding to your rescue. They're going to look for any excuse they can to plant a dagger in your back, and then so they could wash their hands of the mental psychic damage of losing. My favorite type of person is the type of person who's like, I don't even care that Bowman lost. Who cares? That's my favorite type of person, because they're an infant, and you know they are, because they don't want to go like, my views may be correct, but that's not enough. They fundamentally live in this kind of like infantile just world fallacy where they think like, if Bowman had just been more anti-Israel earlier, he would have won. Like, that's the type of world they live in. And honestly, I'm jealous. I wish I lived in that world. I could be a smarmy little dumb fuck Discord mod or something like that and feel superior. But in reality, no. The Splinter Discord is it would be okay if you weren't there. So overall, pretty bad. Nothing positive comes out of that. And let's check it out.
A bad night for progressives, and the squad is now down one member. CNN projects New York Congressman Jamaal Bowman will not be reelected, losing the Democratic primary to George Latimer. One issue that took center stage in this primary, the Israel-Hamas war. Bowman accused Israel of genocide and faced backlash for it. This race really highlighting the deep and growing divisions within the Democratic Party.
Look at this fucking photo! Look at this googly-eyed motherfucker! What you looking at?
Within the Democratic Party over that war and conflict. CNN's Eva McKend has much more on this race. She's joining us now.
And by the way, chat, look at the way this is being interpreted. This is the other factor that made me very angry that people would want to protest Bowman 2 days before the election. We're pressuring him not to endorse Biden. Well, guess what? Who cares? Who fucking cares? His eyes are like that because he has to maintain eye contact with both AIPAC's reps sitting across from him. Yeah.
Eva, what are you hearing about this result this morning?
You know, though Congressman Bowman had some well-reported political vulnerabilities, Kate, going into this contest, his loss really underscores that the progressive movement still faces an uphill battle in Washington. Despite voting with President Biden more than 90% of the time, Bowman was really portrayed as someone who was no longer in sync with the White House or his district. That amount of money poured in from the pro-Israel lobby to negatively define him was quite significant. A super PAC linked to the American Israel Public Affairs Committee dumped around $15 million. That's more than any outside group has ever spent on a House race, and ultimately was too much for him to overcome. And Bowman had a well-resourced and well-positioned opponent in the Westchester County executive who ultimately prevailed. Let's listen.
Now, our opponent may have won this round at this time in this place, but this will be a battle for our humanity and justice for the rest of our lives.
You are included no matter what your demographic is. Doesn't matter your age, color of your skin, your religion, sexual identity, whether you're a right-hander or a left-hander, whether you're a Met fan or a Yankee fan, well, and our inclusiveness in Westchester County is how we have governed.
Now, Bowman was the district's first black congressman. All eyes now turn to Congresswoman Cori Bush in St. Louis, who famously slept on the steps of the Capitol to call attention to the plight of housing insecure people during the pandemic, and if she will be able to withstand a similar challenge from the pro-Israel lobby later this summer.
And in Colorado, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert has survived her Republican primary challenge. CNN projecting that Boebert will win her crowded primary in Colorado's 4th district. The MAGA firebrand barely won re-election in her current district in 2022. She opted to run in a seat being vacated by Republican Ken Buck instead. Joining me now to discuss, Farnoosh Amiri, congressional reporter for the Associated Press. Farnoosh, good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Look, I want to start with the New York race because this was one where we saw very intense campaigning over the weekend. Jamaal Bowman had been joined by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is a very unique district in that it encompasses some of the wealthiest, frankly, less diverse places in Westchester County, New York, with some lower income areas in the Bronx. And that sort of covers the divide, or some of the divide, that we see in the Democratic Party itself. What's your reporting on kind of how this is playing, and how representative it is of the broader kind of back and forth in the Democratic Party right now?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think there's a number of factors that led to Jamaal Bowman's loss last night. Obviously, you know, the amount of money that was funneling into this campaign, to this race. You know, AIPAC spent nearly $15 million on this case, focusing on Jamaal Bowman's comments about Israel, his criticism of the countries.
No, the money didn't focus on that. That's not true. They didn't spend money going like, Jamaal Bowman doesn't support Israel. George Latimer will make sure that Israel can kill as many kids as they want. They didn't do that. They were like, Jamaal Bowman voted against the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Now, everybody understands that the reason why Jamaal Bowman voted against it is because he didn't want the Build Back Better split up so that part of it could be defeated, which every centrist Democrat said, oh, no, don't worry about it. We just want to get some Republican votes. So if we get Republican votes on the infrastructure section, Joe Biden will get a bipartisan win. And that's what Americans were waiting for, a bipartisan win, guys. And once everybody sees Joe Biden is getting Republican senators to vote for his infrastructure bill, his approval will skyrocket and he'll get reelected and it'll be amazing. And we'll also pass Build Back Better, and all of the Democratic agenda will succeed. Yay! And all of us progressives, including me at the time, were like, yeah, if they split the bill, it's so they can block the bill and not have any of the progressive legislation get through and just get the most right-wing shit that is basically Trump's infrastructure bill. And that's exactly what they did, you fucking worthless sacks of shit. And now, when progressives said, we're not going to vote for this bill, a couple of them voting against it, saying they opposed the decision, then AIPAC spent $15 million saying, he doesn't support Joe Biden's agenda, see? Meanwhile, Latimer said, yeah, if they try to raise taxes on the rich, I'm going to vote against it. So, like, if you're supporting Latimer, you are not a Democrat. You're not a Democrat. It's just that simple, which is amazing. But you are a Democrat because this is what the Democratic Party is: controlled opposition. And now he's being replaced by a Manchin clone. Exactly. In a dizzying array of policy negotiation, welfare programs were pawned between caucuses, different version of American Rescue Plans, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Reconciliation Bill, ultimately losing $1.7 trillion worth of climate, health, and anti-poverty programs. Childcare universal pre-K, $0. Paid family medical leave, $0. Child tax credit, $0. Affordable housing, $0. I'm so glad we didn't spend any money on affordable housing. So glad we didn't do anything on that. Medicaid home community care, $0. ACA subsidies, yay! Money for the insurance companies, yeah! Immigration reform, $0. Education workforce aid, $0. Medicaid hearing coverage, $0. Other spending, $4 billion. Wow. And nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares. This gets 500 likes. This gets 500 fucking likes. And this is why this dumb fuck's gonna lose. And I can't wait for him to lose. By the way, turnabout's fair play. Let's get Biden the fuck out of there. When Joe Biden loses, it's a good thing.
handling of the Israel-Hamas war. But more specifically, like you mentioned, I mean, his district has changed since he won in 2020, and it has become more white and less black, and it's covering more of that high-income Westchester County than it is. I mean, his district has changed since he won in 2020, and it has become more white and less black, and it's covering more of that high-income Westchester County than it is the parts of the Bronx that really helped propel him to office. But more than that, I think, you know, Jamaal Bowman was seen as a vulnerable candidate for centrist Democrats hoping to go more to the moderate side to be able to, you know, talk to the...
Just say more to the right. Why aren't you saying more to the right? Why are you saying more moderate? Don't be cowardly. Say more to the right.
Constituent base that wants folks who are not, you know, more outspoken, who are doing the job. And one of the things that Bowman, you know, has been criticized for is his losing touch of the district, right? Mm-hmm. Not spending as much time out talking to folks, focusing on issues that impact his constituents, and more time on some of what people call culture war issues, as many have seen.
He also pulled the fire alarm.
Yeah.
Which I still don't fully have my head around.
Yes, but, none of us.
Okay, so when he pulled the fire alarm, the Republicans were trying to do a like shady thing. I can't remember exactly what they were trying to do, and Democrats were like not in the House floor, and like there were concerns that they might be able to pass a bill by one vote or something. So he stupidly hit the fire alarm to try to like prevent the Republicans from being able to do some dirty trick. It turns out they probably wouldn't have been able to do it. So his pulling the fire alarm was a dumb as fuck move. But it was for the interests of the people. It wasn't like he just pulled it for giggles. It was him trying to protect your rights, and using any means necessary. Now, if you're a Democrat, you don't like that. You want the Republicans to be able to use some sort of maneuver in order to pass legislation that doesn't actually have a majority of the chamber through a little tricky floor call. But hey, guess what? Latimer's not gonna pull the fire alarm, even though the country's literally on fire. I want to say this. I'm completely radicalized. I am completely, personally, in my mind, completely radicalized to the point where I can't really even say anything about it. And I won't. I'm just going to say that in my mind, I'm exactly where I need to be. And you know, with no limits. That's all I can say. I think the main problem I have is I think my problem with Stalin is that he was like he was too nice to the anarchists. That would be my main problem with him. I wouldn't pull the fire alarm, honestly, unless there was a safety issue. Yeah. Okay, liberal.
Anyway,
roses next to the 41 months.
So turning to Colorado, let's hear a little bit of...
Does every political streamer on this platform need to punch left on anarchists? I'm punching left. There's nobody there.
Lauren Boebert's reaction last night when she found out she was going to win. Watch.
We are going to have a fantastic night of victory, and it's not over. President Trump needs us now, more than ever, to get him in the race, in the fight, in the White House, November 5th.
So she also alluded to, in her victory speech, that social media, what people would be seeing on their phones about her, because part of why she was in so much danger and why she had to switch districts was because she was thrown out of a musical for vaping was the official reason for her getting the boot. but there was some lewd
things,
behavior involved also. But it's clear, I mean, the lesson that I learned from this, I mean, she's winning in a place that she's not from, under circumstances where, you know, I've spoken to members of Congress who suggested that Ken Buck bailed out of his seat a little bit early so that there would be someone else appointed so that he could give that person an edge over Lauren Boebert.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the socially media famous face has won out.
Yeah, I mean, we can't understate how much switching districts helped her. I mean, we saw how close her race was in 2022. You know, Democrats really saw this as a pickup for them if she would have stayed in her district. So she took the politically, you know, more advantageous decision, and she talks about it. And you know, she said last night, you know, the district might be different, the region might be different, but the values are the same. But it's very clear she saw what was coming and she did what was politically advantageous for her.
What are her alliances in Congress like right now?
Yeah, she's interesting because I was going to make a parallel with her and Bowman, but in a lot of ways, she's taken like a back seat. She wasn't part of the 8 that voted to oust McCarthy. You know, she's not been the ones who have been pushing the motion to vacate like her former friend, Marjorie Taylor Greene has. She's been more of her controversies have come more from what she's done outside of Capitol Hill than what she's done on Capitol Hill, which is
That's
a very, very
it.
different Boebert than we saw when she first came to office.
Yeah, well, and that falling out, because in the beginning, she and Marjorie Taylor Greene were like inseparable. They were together. I mean, I remember watching them together on the floor during one of those early Trump States of the Union, and then suddenly that seemed to break apart. I mean, what happened there?
I think, from people I've spoken to, there seems to be not enough space for two MAGA darlings, right, in the Republican conference. There is, they came up seeing themselves as like-minded, being able to build a space for themselves in this conference that is obviously very male-dominated.
I mean, I couldn't disagree more with this analysis. This is really inside baseball bullshit that nobody cares about. They largely agree on everything. They're Trump loyalists. There's some that are like, delusional about what Republicans can do with just the House chamber, who want to go for maximalism, want to go for destructive politics, but they can't do that. They're Republicans. The corporate elites are not going to let you wreck their bag. So it should surprise you that when it got to the situation where, oh no, it looks like the Republicans might not be able to, raise the debt ceiling or whatever, suddenly Democrats started voting for Republicans to be speaker. There is infinite moderate Democrats. They're going to keep the Republican Party propped up. They have no leverage. Okay? And voting for a Republican speaker is not even considered to be damaging to a Democrat politician. Whereas if a Republican did it, they would be primaried out of office the next term. The problem with the Democratic Party is it just is not really a party. It doesn't believe in anything. It doesn't require, it's not a party. Like, this is something that I think a lot of Americans and even leftists don't understand. The Democratic Party is not a party. It's a name. It's a brand name. It doesn't mean anything. All right? You are not, if you are the Democratic nominee in a district, you don't get anything for that other than a spot on the ballot. And to be a Democrat, you don't have to do anything but just say you are. It's not a thing. And so what it is largely is a place where regular people have been tricked into believing it's progressive in any way, or left-wing in any way, or compassionate in any way, or progressive in any way, and Republican and billionaire donors pour money into it in order to create a controlled opposition that will fail to enact reforms. That's the purpose of the Democratic Party, to diffuse any mass discontent. And the Republican Party's purpose is to execute the right flank of Capitol's most extreme desires. In a lot of places, Democrats are just Republicans because they couldn't win unless they put the D in front. That's called the state of New York and the state of California. That's the reality of what we're seeing. There is no they're different. No, she's just wrong. Boebert decided this is pointless. I'm just going to, I'm going to exist. And by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene also supported. Like, Boebert was the more radical. What are they even talking about? Now that I think about it, Boebert was the one who was voting to vacate, and it was Marjorie Taylor Greene that was kissing up to McCarthy. They actually have this flipped.
But then as time went on, they realized that there can only be one, spotlight. And obviously Marjorie has taken over that in a lot of ways.
Very interesting. Farnoosh Shamiri for us this morning. Farnoosh, thank you.
Yeah,
Always really appreciate having you.
The most expensive congressional primary in American history is over, and
TGI
voters
Cole,
in New York
thank you
have
for 25
rejected left-wing Democrat Congressman Jamaal Bowman. Bowman lost to fellow Democrat George Latimer in a bitterly contested contest. They were divided over issues of the Israel-Hamas war, and Scott McFarlane is with us covering this race. Scott,
now we're going to talk about how it was really Israel. Now that it's over, we could say Latimer got all the Israel money. Now, before the election, you don't see any mainstream coverage like this. Now that the voters are tricked, now you can cover it honestly. Now you can cover it as an Israel win. This is what I knew would happen, which is why I was so frustrated with people wasting their time trashing Bowman. Because guess what? The American people are going to be told Israel won, you dummies! But I guess that doesn't matter. Who cares? Why do you care about politics, Mike? It's more about saying you support Hamas or whatever. If you don't say you support the Hamas, then you're really a cringe lib. And God forbid you be a cringe lib. Can you imagine the roasting you'll get in Discord? Like, what are you even talking about? I had a huge argument with my MAGA dad that the Democratic Party is just controlled opposition. Yeah, your MAGA dad watches a lot of TV, so he's not very bright, with all due respect.
how many millions of dollars? This was a lot. 25 million. That is bonkers money, and it was particularly bitter. Jamaal Bowman, a 48-year-old former middle school principal.
Congressional campaigns usually cost like $1.5 million. If you want an idea of the way the money has gone out of control.
With the most progressive Democrats in Congress, known as the Squad, lost support from voters in his own party. He'd been among the most vocal critics of how Israel is fighting the war in Gaza, calling Prime Minister Netanyahu a maniac and referring to the war as a genocide. The challenger, Westchester County Executive George Latimer, was fueled by millions of dollars from Jewish American political action groups. This race really raises questions about the political impact for Democrats who are so outspoken against Israel. It could change some of the focus of some of the campaigns ahead of November. But even in this toxic political environment, there are new signs voters are looking for some form of harmony. Last week, a Virginia Republican who frequently defies his own party got close and is now at risk of losing his primary. And today it's Jamaal Bowman, who voted against President Biden's initiatives.
See, the left-wing Republicans are losing and the left-wing Democrats are losing. Yay!
Way in the past 2 years who lost Democratic support.
That Bowman race wasn't even close either. Pay attention to that. Yeah.
So, Scott, let's talk about Colorado. Controversial Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. She scored a big win in the district that she switched.
There you go. There you go. That's how it's coming.
We are just one.
Well, all I know is I'm sure AOC is like, I need to withdraw my endorsement of Biden. I think after this election, they're like, man, I really need to, I need to stand up to AIPAC more. That's what every progressive is thinking right now. Every progressive and left-wing congressperson is like, I think I want to stand up to Israel more right now.
There are so many people across the country who are looking for the Democrats to fulfill their promise. This is a promise that the president made to them on the campaign trail. It is the promise that we, when we were campaigning, made. And this is our once in a lifetime opportunity to deliver on that. Now, we have about 12 members in the House, in the Senate, in the Democratic caucus, who are, an obstacle to getting this done. They would like to make the public believe that the Progressive Caucus is blocking these bills from passing. It's the opposite. We know that if we don't pass these two bills, the president's agenda will not pass. So we are consistent in having the president's back and supporting the whole agenda. We are going to do everything that it takes to be able to get this done.
By the way, they used the fact that he was opposed to splitting the bills to pretend he was against Biden, when in reality it was centrist Democrats who blocked Biden's agenda. So they spent $25 million lying about everything. But guess what? You don't have to tell the truth. It doesn't matter. You don't have to tell the truth in these political ads. $20 million of lies. And everyone believed it because they're stupid. What's your beef with anarchists? You know we have been part of every living winning left revolution and coalition throughout history, except for the ones that actually won. My problem with you is I studied the Spanish Civil War. Is my problem with you. We made the USSR possible by losing, by being swept away, thankfully. Thankfully, it wasn't too hard. Thankfully, the USSR didn't have to waste too much resources. Anarchists famously liberated Vietnam from French and American colonialists. Yeah, totally. I admit I'm angrier over the Bowman loss than I thought I was going to be. Oh well. Oh well. All right, moving on.